On Friday, former President Trump held a rally in Wilmington, North Carolina to support Republican Senate nominee Ted Budd and other midterm election candidates. Trump sounded off on his 2020 rival Joe Biden, slamming his record, with particular focus on inflation and the border. Trump, who continually leads the 2024 Republican presidential primary polling, has made attacks on Biden central to his stump speeches. He routinely calls his presidential successor the worst American leader in history. The 45th president is seen as a likely contender in the next presidential election, and recent polls show him highly competitive despite low approval ratings.
Wouldn't have happened. You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history, put them together, and they would not have done the damage Joe Biden has done to our nation in less than 2 short years. It's true. 2 years ago, when I was in office, gasoline, famous, beautiful gasoline, was $1.87 a gallon. And it even hit $1.50, if you remember, at one point. Now gas is $5, $6, $7. And it's going up a lot higher than that. And, you know, they're using the strategic reserves, which I topped out. I bought 75 million barrels of oil from the oil companies when we were at an all-time low. I was so proud of it. I said, when are these fakers going to write a story that I made a good deal? Because it started to go after that. But I topped it out. First time in 52 years that the reserves were topped out. And you know what happened? This guy 4 weeks ago said, we're going to start taking it because we want to keep the gasoline low before the election. But after the election, it's going to go up like you've never seen before. It's a shame. I mean, think of it. We topped it out. And that was not for election purposes. That was not for cars. That was for military purposes. We need these strategic reserves. It's not supposed to be used for that reason. Under my leadership, we had American energy independence, and we would soon have been dominant. The United States is now a beggar for energy, and Biden and the Democrat Congress have just passed a massive anti-oil and gas bill to put American energy the hell out of business. Can you believe this? Can you believe it? Let's go buy an electric car that travels for 1 hour and 49 minutes, and then you can spend 4 hours on waiting for it to recharge if you can find a charger. Let's do that. Darling, let's take a drive around the country. That's okay, darling, but the most we can go is about an hour and a half. Nah, it's sick what they're doing, sick. We gave you the largest tax cuts and regulation cuts in American history, larger than Ronald Reagan's, bigger than the Reagan tax cuts by a lot. The radical Democrat Congress just passed one of the largest tax hikes in American history. It's the largest tax hike, in my opinion. It'll prove to be pulverizing the middle class. It's happening to your middle class. The Green New Deal, they're spending trillions and trillions on the Green New Deal. It's like taking money and throwing it out the window, and it's causing tremendous inflation. Under the Trump administration, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world with no inflation. Nobody's ever seen like it. That's before the virus came in. Then after it, we got it back. We handed something off that was so good, and they blew it. And they blew it at the border because all they had to do is leave it alone. We had the strongest border ever. Biden and the Democrat Congress created the worst inflation in more than 50 years, 9.1%, and their new so-called Inflation Recession Act. You believe it? It's a fake name. You know, everything they do is disinformation. They say things, and they keep saying them, and people start either believing them or not believing them. There's not a lot of belief in this place with all these thousands of people going as far as the eye can see. Thank you very much. But it's a fake deal. And it's thrown the economy into a free fall. I built our military and rebuilt our military, including our nuclear capability and the creation of Space Force, which everybody said, no, no, no. But China and Russia were killing us in space, and we did, first time in 78 years since Air Force. They surrendered our strength and our heart in Afghanistan. What happened in Afghanistan, in my opinion, was the greatest humiliation that our country has ever seen. I don't believe we've ever seen humiliation like that, Ted Budd. You're not going to let that happen. I don't think we've ever had humiliation like what happened in Afghanistan. And now we have a war between Russia and Ukraine with potentially hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people dying that would never have happened if I was president. Wouldn't have happened. I dealt with Putin. I got along great with Putin. He wouldn't have done it. But I guarantee you he wouldn't have done it. And he didn't do it for 4 years. There wasn't soldiers built up on the border, nothing. He wouldn't have done it. Didn't do it. Somebody said, well, he might have done it. I said, well, he didn't do it for 4 years. And he didn't do it for really 5 years. During the campaign we talked about, he didn't do it for 5 years. 2 years ago, we had the strongest southern border in our history. Now we have the worst border in the history of our country. And you know what? I believe it's maybe the worst border anywhere in the world and maybe in world history, because no third world country would allow to happen to their border. They'd get out there with sticks and stones if they have to. They wouldn't let it happen. They wouldn't let their country be destroyed like is happening to the United States of America. Under my leadership, we ended catch and release. We deported record numbers of illegal alien gang members. And we built hundreds of miles of border wall despite 2.5 years of Democrat-inspired lawsuits. We won them all. We won every one of them. We completely finished our original plan of the wall, and then I said, let's do some more because we needed some other areas. And we got that almost finished. 3 more weeks, he would have had it finished. And then when Texas and Arizona wanted to finish it, they took the wall, which was sitting there waiting to be put up. They took it away. They put it away where Texas and Arizona can't get to it. In other words, they want open borders.